Before this video starts, I want to give out a quick disclaimer. Insomniac as a company deserves nothing but respect. This rewrite isn't me saying, haha, Insomniac, you suck. I'm a way better writer than you. This video is nothing but glorified fanfiction. A lot of story sacrifices had to be made so this game could feel as fun as possible. Spectacle was the priority, not cohesion. This is just a video that a 17-year-old is making with no restrictions from an executive studio, and just a bunch of my ideas I think would be cool. So now, let's do this. First, final, and only spoiler warning for Insomniac's Spider-Man 2. If you do not wish to be spoiled for this game or its story contents, click off in 3, 2, 1. Spider-Man's Black Suit arc is the second most popular story in all of Spider-Man, behind only Spider-Man's origin story in importance. Peter comes into contact with a black suit that makes him more powerful, faster, stronger, but also makes him darker. But Insomniac told its own version of the story, a version that's really cool, but it's also really rushed. A big complaint about Insomniac and how it handled the black suit was how quickly Peter was to get dark. I personally didn't have this as an issue, but I do wish Peter did something crazy while he was in the black suit, but all he did was say crazy stuff. He barely did unnecessary property damage, he didn't kill anybody, and he didn't even shove MJ onto the floor. Yes, he was about to kill Kraven, but that was at the point of the story where he was about to become Venom, and usually the Black Suit arc has crazy stuff happening before then. That's the breaking point. And while the Black Suit arc in this story is good for what it is, I would just wish it was longer, so I'm going to do a mild rewrite as well as So, not so quick side note, I love Insomniac's Black Suit, but I understand why some connoisseurs of Spider-Man suits don't like it. Since the beginning of time, or since 2008, Marvel's had goofy early comic book designs, and to compensate, they started remastering them when doing live action. But in recent years, they've been doing something called over-designing, adding weird textures, unnecessary pointless lines that make the costume look like it belongs on a Halloween decoration. They add extra or duller colors to make the design look less cartoony. This is all an attempt to make the suit look less like pajamas and more like a functional hero suit. And that works, but you sometimes lose the charm that's in the original source material. Sure, when over-designing works, it really works. But when it doesn't, you get some of the most cringe, unsatisfying, crappy costumes you'll ever look at. So for the black suit, they made it look less like a suit and more like armor, with gaps that have goopy bits sewing them together, which does make sense when you see the story and how it's originally an Agent Venom suit. But the lines kind of put too much focus on his abs, which I'm not a fan of, and the mask fits on the face and weirdly, and while I get that it's supposed to look creepy and unsettling, the goop on the skull just feels like too much. You're not supposed to notice that's evil until it's too late. But again, I do not hate the suit, I really love it. So this isn't as much of a redesign as much as what I would do if I was told to make a version of a black suit. See, said that was not going to be that quick of a side note. So I quickly realized the problem in drawing the black suit. It's just Spider-Man, but no web lines. And black. And a harsher spider logo. There's not really a whole bunch you can do with the whole black suit that's not over-designing. So I just gave him a more tactical look and added white soles to the arms from the redesign of the advanced suit I made a while ago. And I turned the lenses into venomous eyes and made them kind of like goggles. So whenever he emotes with them, they're already missing a lot of whites, making them dark. Peter and Miles are fighting Sandman, just like in canon. But in this story, when Peter gets knocked down after getting struck by lightning for the second time, he's not getting up. The sand is taking him down and down, till a hand reaches out to grab him. Just as he's about to say, "Thanks, Miles," he looks up to see Agent Venom. You play as Agent Venom. You can't shoot webs or do air tricks, but you can use the symbiote punch. I wanted to do this because we kind of take forever to get to the black suit in the beginning, in my opinion, which is the first thing being advertised for this game. So a quick demo of it with Agent Venom before we get it with Peter would be really cool. Agent Venom goes along saying he saw Sandman terrorizing the city, realized that he had superpowers and decided to help. Peter notices something familiar about this guy, but he shrugs it off and keeps fighting Sandman guys. During the fight, Agent Venom and Miles are doing most of the work while Peter is struggling, still reeling after, being struck by lightning. People were saying Peter was nerfed in this game, but Peter was struck by lightning twice and still got back up. This was just a bad situation for him and a perfect situation for Miles. Agent Venom disappears without a trace after Miles and Peter take down Venom. They just make an offhand joke about him not wanting to be a part of cleanup. Later on, as Peter is helping the city, he starts talking to himself, saying Miles and some new guy did a better job than he did, and he's wondering if he's losing his touch as Spider-Man. I didn't say that the way I wanted to. I wanted him to sound a lot more sad. Fast forward, Peter gets fired, we see Harry again, Peter gets a new job, Hunters free Scorpion and Lee, Peter, MJ, and Harry go celebrate at Coney Island. And at Coney Island, Peter is being overwhelmed, trying to save the people and stop the Hunters, when Harry comes to the rescue, with black tendrils coming out of him, just like Agent Venom. Harry recognizes that Peter is Spider-Man, and the same thing happens as in canon, but Harry is less surprised by his suit. They go back to talk about Peter being frickin' Spider-Man until they pass out and Norman wakes them up. And Peter goes to find Tombstone. Norman and Harry talk, and this is where we see the toxic side of Norman and Harry's dynamic. We never really see Harry and Norman bicker or have a conversation because Harry's either dying or an alien, so we can finally set that up here. Norman tells Harry that he isn't a kid anymore, and that a man shouldn't treat his office like a play area, and that Peter is a good scientist, and that Harry's stifling Peter's potential with his antics. We notice that Harry's kind of numb to this talk, but he gets a little defensive about that argument about Peter. Let's fast forward to the Jersey Zoo incident. The only real change is that Miles is here. Granted, he's not here the whole time, he's here just through the second wave of bad guys. My reason for this is that we never really get to see all three of the Spider-Man do a mission together. I'd like to see their dynamic, even though I plan to completely screw it up right here. But I'm getting ahead of myself, let me stop. Harry's a bit off about Peter's decision to involve Miles. He says stuff like, "Are you sure we need the kid for this?" And Peter defends Miles, knowing these hunters are super dangerous and they need all hands on deck for this. Peter then tells Miles and Harry to go deal with the hunters while he fights Kraven. So we switch to Miles, and Harry's kind of being a little bit of a prick here. He says stuff that implies that Peter and Harry could have done this without Miles, with possessive undertones about Peter. He's not going full Bully Maguire, but I imagine him just being subtly bullying Miles. This catches Miles off guard because he's been so cool with this guy earlier. So Miles tries to defend himself gently, but that kind of makes Harry more angry. Once we're done with those enemy waves, we switch back to Peter and it's a boss fight. We kind of just fight Sandman in the beginning, and then we don't get another boss fight until the middle of the second act. Wow, I typed that in the script and I thought I made a typo and I was trying to re-record the line, but yeah, we don't fight anyone else till Lizard in the middle of the game. Unless you do all the Mysteriums and fight Mysterio or fight Wraith. But again, that still takes a long time. Way too long. But anyway, this is Peter's chance. Yeah, he was messing up a whole bunch earlier, but now he can prove himself. Prove that he's still got it. That he's still a good Spider-Man. That he's still... Oh dear. Miles, Harry, and MJ freak out. But Harry flies into a rage and attacks Kraven. MJ nods at Miles to confirm she's going after Peter. We play the same mission where MJ carries Peter. We see Harry rage out, but we see Miles trying to prevent him from going for kill shots. Harry even rages at Miles, throwing him. Eventually, Harry notices Peter and MJ on the ground. And while they start to cry for their friend, Harry gives Peter his suit. As it creeps onto his body, we play a dream sequence, where Peter cycles through events in his life. Times where he failed because he was too weak. When he got jumped by the Sinister Six. When he was beaten by Dr. Octopus after fighting Lee. Peter starts to contemplate if he should give up being Spider-Man. That's when he hears voices telling him to get up, because he wasn't weak. He could be a lot stronger, a better Spider-Man. Before he can ask, who is it, or what is that, he's brought back into the real world, in a brand new black suit. Peter's confused, but he knows he has to act quickly. He tells Miles to get MJ and Harry away while he goes in a symbiote surge. Fast forward a little more. Somewhere in between, Harry calls Miles to apologize on how he was acting, saying that he feels like he just got his life back, and he feels that he's missed out on a lot and his friend's life. And that's been getting to him. Miles forgives him because he's a nice guy, but mostly out of pity more than anything else, which Harry can sense but doesn't comment on it. I think everything would be the same up until the hunters show up at Connor's house, where Peter jumps out of the basement with a new suit. You see, the game made the black suit evolve over time like Spectacular Spider-Man did. But in my personal opinion, I would have liked to see the black suit have more phases than just two. When he gets the black suit initially, it's just the black suit. But now, it's the dark suit, which would just be the regular black suit we see in-game, but it makes a lot more sense for a time like this. During the chase between the Lizard and Spider-Man, Peter is busting through walls and throwing cars around to try and get onto Lizard. In the game, everybody is just crapping on Spider-Man for causing property damage when, no, it was the Lizard causing property damage and Spider-Man was trying to stop it. Anyone with eyes could see that. He did the exact same thing in Miles' game. The only person who complained was Triple J. He did the exact same thing in his own first game with Shocker. The only thing you can argue about him doing wrong is getting mad at the police, and that doesn't really even do anything. Everything else would still happen like it does in canon. Except this moment right here.
Why don't you pop some more pills and say what you really feel?
Hey!
MJ is very vague when he says, Peter, the suit is changing you. She could have gone, hey, you almost killed me last night, and I'm pretty sure you snapped that guy's neck. I think it would be a lot more alarming if Peter didn't believe her. He says that she's just trying to cover her own behind because she slandered him online. Peter even goes on, saying that the suit is the only thing that understands him. It makes him a better Spider-Man. Harry glares at Peter, at Spider-Man. Everything about their friendship was fine until Spider-Man showed up. Now, he's valuing that suit more than his best friend's life. First Miles, and now the symbiote, and now Peter was just gonna let him die. But Harry doesn't have the energy to fight his best friend, as he leaves. With the earlier context I gave Harry and Norman's dynamic, this scene makes a lot more sense. Now Peter goes to save Miles from Kraven, and breaks out of the container, revealing the symbiote suit. Because, to be honest, we all expected him to turn into Venom when this scene hit. After the brawl, Peter is about to kill Kraven, till Miles stops him. The only change I would have made here is give you the choice to pick between Peter or Miles in this boss fight, Fall of Cybertron style. But I can understand why they didn't. My Hero Academia happens, and with the power of Christian Rock, Peter gets the symbiote off. They have a quick talk, and Miles goes off and leaves. Peter watches Miles swing away, the kid he trained to become Spider-Man, a greater Spider-Man than him, a legend, an inspiration, a fool. Sorry about that, compadre. I just had to make sure he was gone. Now, what are we? We cut back to Harry and Norman arguing. Norman wants to put Harry back in this detention tank to keep him alive while they test the new healing agent. But at this point, Harry's given up. They're trying to buy time when that's impossible. Harry is dying, and his father needs to accept that. Norman rages at Harry and ignores him, and says no matter what, Harry is going to be healthy again, and he doesn't care what Harry's accepted. He's going to do whatever his father tells him to do. As he storms out. That's when Peter walks in. Sorry, wasn't trying to eavesdrop. Harry asks Peter what the heck he's even doing here. And Peter apologizes for not giving the suit back, like he promised. He felt like he needed it to be a better Spider-Man. But he says they have figured out a solution that works for everyone. Peter goes on a spiel about how he has a plan to heal the world, starting with Harry, as Peter puts on the symbiote suit. Harry looks at Peter like he's insane, and realizes that MJ and Connors were right. The suit is changing Peter. And we thought only one of us could have this symbiote with them, but we have made massive discoveries since. Harry shoots a quick text to MJ while hiding his phone. Peter then grabs Harry as he begins to transfer some of the symbiote onto him. However, Norman heard the commotion and brought security to throw a flashbang at Spider-Man, causing the symbiote to be ripped off of Peter. But Harry isn't so lucky. The suit jumps from Peter to Harry as he begins to grow and change.